My name is Kevin Wengernuk, and thanks for taking time to watch this short video. I will be talking about an organic approach to treating lawns. A quick background on me: I have owned and operated KW Landscaping for over 28 years. I have a strong passion for Mother Earth, and this directs me to implement organic practices and utilize native plants in my approach. I feel this organic approach is appropriate in any setting, but when it comes to healthcare facilities where people are cared for, higher standards and more common sense practices should be put into play. Healthcare workers follow a model of do no harm. No person should be overly exposed, but especially in a facility that is there to uplift their health. An unhealthy plant is being attacked is more susceptible and attracts more pests to attack it. I can only imagine the parallel is the same with people. A weakened immune system is more vulnerable to pesticides that were not intended for human contact. What the IPM healthcare project strives to achieve is to direct others to take steps to lessen or eliminate completely the dependency on chemical approaches and work with nature to create a stable, balanced environment. I mean, pesticides are safe, right? And they're regulated by the APA in order to prove they are safe, right? Yes, they are regulated and tested, but everything isn't considered in these regulations or testings. Things that aren't considered is exposure to even tiny amounts too much for a compromised immune system. Do side effects appear years or decades later, and then tracking the cause is nearly impossible? I mean, do you remember what lawns you walked on last week, let alone back in 2019? Does a brew effect cause issues, meaning a little exposure to this pesticide while breathing in that pollutant while on some life-saving medicine? We don't know because it isn't thoroughly considered. I am here to tell you that you don't need to even take those chances. An organic approach works and is proven right here in Annapolis at the Maryland State House lawn. It is not a perfect lawn, but it is a thick green stand of turf that the masses can enjoy without worry about exposure to something that has potential to harm. The higher powers of our state government have trusted a few to perform this project on the lawn. Ruth Berlin, Chip Osborne, and I have made efforts to make this program a success, and I am very proud of how far we have come. Here are some pictures of what the State House lawn looked like back in 2012. These pictures show thin turf and stands of weeds throughout. But then just 2 years later, you can see progress pictures showing the changes that have been made. The lawn has reacted very well, pushing out the weeds and creating a thicker stand of turf to exist. Because of the success, my team was hired after numerous years of volunteering to maintain these historic grounds organically. Team KW is very proud to continue this effort. Let me dive a little bit deeper into the details on organic turf management. Healthy soil is the key to a successful organic program. The organic approach focuses on feeding the soil and improving the soil's organic matter content. When this happens, the plants will thrive as they were intended to from the healthy soil. Looking at how healthy soil is created, we need to consider the soil food web. A functioning soil food web creates the balance needed, and all characters play a vital role. If you start eliminating a few or pushing out others, this web breaks. That break disrupts the balance, and the positive results of your approach begin to lessen. The tiny cast of characters, just tiny in stature, the microorganisms, play a huge role in maintaining soil health. The largest and most important task they perform is to decompose the waste from plants and animals, then converting that into a form that fuels healthy soil. Carbon, sequestering carbon. We hear all about CO2 entering the atmosphere, but did you know that healthy soil will minimize the amount of carbon released in its footprint? An unhealthy soil fueled by chemical fertilizers doesn't have the organisms to sequester that same carbon. If we just consider lawns, there are 40 million acres of lawns in the United States. That's a lot of land to consider to either choose to sequester carbon or to release it in our atmosphere. Organic matter is found in all soils. It is created by the organisms that thrive in healthy soils. Did you know that organic matter is 58% carbon? That's a huge chunk of carbon that is locked up in the soil. The higher the percent organic matter found in the soil, the more life the soil supports. A healthy soil is rich in microorganisms. This helps mitigate climate change. Chemical pesticides, they are just a tool to get the job done, right? No. Chemical pesticides are broad spectrum, which sounds great until you realize those pesticides are killing the problem as well as the beneficial characters that exist there to protect the soil from the pest you are trying to get rid of. These chemical pesticides wreak havoc in the balance of the soil food web. The organic approach for turf care takes into account that plants get stressed. Yes, just as stress weakens a human's immune system, this also happens with plants. Practicing proper cultural practices goes a long way to prevent stress. Proper mowing heights are just one of the best practices to prevent stressed turf. Part of a successful organic approach is to evaluate the current state of the lawn. That's just like a checkup that we get from our doctors, or we're supposed to get from our doctors. And no two lawns are alike, just as no two people are the same. And catering to the specific needs of each site goes a long way. Many single-family homes that we treat require different approaches for the front lawn compared to the back lawn, depending on existing factors. Is the site sunny, shady? Is there soggy soil? Is it very dry soil? Is there heavy foot traffic causing compaction? These are all things that we consider. And one thing that I see a lot is that people are trying to grow grass in areas that grass is just not meant to grow. Those areas should be considered areas for perennial gardens, ground covers, but not turf. I mentioned mowing heights earlier, and that is important for so many reasons. The taller the cut, the more leaf blade exists to practice photosynthesis. The taller the cut, the deeper the roots grow, which enables the turf to seek out more nutrients and water. The taller the cut, the more shade the plant casts on the soil, keeping the soil temperatures regulated and allowing the soil to hold more moisture. This shading also blocks the sunlight from hitting undesirable weed seeds, not allowing them to germinate. Okay, back to third grade science class, the process of photosynthesis. Sunlight fuels the plant to take in carbon dioxide, which feeds the plant and then creates a waste called oxygen. And yes, oxygen is something we all need. Thatch. Thatch is a tightly intermingled layer of living and dead stems, leaves, and roots, which accumulate between the layer of actively growing grass and the soil underneath. Thatch can be overly abundant in conventional chemical approach lawns because there isn't the beneficial biology to do its job and break down that mass of matter. Organic driven systems drive up the soil biology populations and keeps this thatch layer at an optimum thickness of around 1/2 inch. Compacted soil is a large inhibitor of aggressively growing grassroots. Heavy foot traffic or even soil composition can lead to compacted soils. Machine-driven aeration relieves this compaction and creates a gateway for oxygen to reach the roots. Oxygen is absorbed by the roots to keep the plant thriving. Aeration is just another piece of the organic approach. This picture shows what happens when the soil is aerated. Compaction is relieved, water is then able to penetrate deeper, and oxygen is able to reach more roots. Aeration also creates a seed pocket for better germination of new turf grass. A question to consider: how good do you want your turf to look? With anything, the more inputs you do, the better the results. I mean, a fallow field could be considered an organic lawn, but the look isn't necessarily desirable to some. There are many inputs that go into creating a healthy organic lawn. Just like there are plenty of ingredients that go into that delicious chocolate cake that grandma used to make. You need to decide your expectations of the turf stand you want to grow and the spectrum between a fallow field and a golf course fairway. These are both achievable with the correct inputs. Team KW strives to shoot for a green, thick turf with only 10 to 20% weed pressure. The most important input is water. The amount on average is 1 inch of water per week for a typical tall fescue lawn. But the frequency of watering changes during the season. In the spring, you need less water. Spreading it infrequently is the best approach. This will drive the roots deeper into the soil. In the summer, you need more water frequently. This will help the turf deal with the summer heat and keep the turf grass from going into dormancy. Another important input is overseeding, and September is prime time for overseeding. This input will thicken an existing stand of turf, and a healthy stand of turf will outcompete weed pressures. Team KW also does a touch-up seeding in May to fill any bare spots. But again, that is just a touch-up. Other important inputs include the use of organic fertilizers and compost. Calculated amounts of nitrogen spread throughout the season in timed intervals ensure the turf continues to grow and stay healthy. A yearly application of compost will add beneficial bacteria to the soil, creating a living environment. Team KW adds compost in September when the overseeding happens. Stepping away from turf for a quick slide, I do want to acknowledge one important tool and resource found hopefully in every landscape: trees. Yes, we need more trees. Every spring, yards of mulch are spread to make the beds around trees look pretty. This practice conserves water loss from the soil, retards weed growth, and adds beneficial organisms to the soil. But too much mulch can be a bad thing, and creating mulch volcanoes is a perfect example of what not to do. This practice encourages bark decay and root circling, hurting this incredible resource. I ask you to consider what is happening at your facility or even your own patch of paradise. You do not need to have toxic chemicals spread all over your lawn to enjoy a thick green lawn or a garden full of flowers. In my personal opinion, the chemical approach is working in direct conflict of what Mother Earth created. The conventional approach creates more issues by fixing one problem that hurts the soil food web, throwing the entire ecosystem out of balance. This opens the door to additional problems. If you want to take steps towards changing your approach, please reach out to Ruth Berlin at berlin@marylandpestnet.org. And you can talk to her about the IPM Healthcare Facilities Project. Here are some links to some useful resources for you to take steps toward this organic approach. If you have any questions, please ask and we will get back to you. We want you to have a successful organic approach to your lawn care. Again, my name is Kevin Wengernuk, and thanks for your time. And I wish you the best organic lawn moving forward.